Hey, just so you guys know, next week there won't be a new episode of Black Clover. You know how it is. I take a vacation and then schedules and stuff. So next week, no episode. And also, I'm going to go ahead and make this decision now that when we come back from the break and we get back to episode 158, we are going to be shifting Black Clover to once a week. So no more videos on Tuesday. It'll just be on Sunday. We were going to have to do this anyway when the new season started up in October, but I thought now would be a good time to do it since I've got a lot of stuff coming up. We've got House of the Dragon Season 3, 100 Girlfriends Season 3, a lot of stuff. And this basically means that these last 13 episodes that we've got of Black Clover will pretty much just take us through to the new season once that starts up in October. So, yeah. No videos next week, and when we come back, we will be shifted over to one Black Clover per week, which is going to be weird, I'm going to be honest with you. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. Enjoy the episode. Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Black Clover. Last time around, we had Awakening Powers, where Yami was training with Mereoleona to learn more about Mana Zone, and as he was doing it and surpassing his limits, he actually was using his black hole in a way that seemed to be nullifying her mana. So he's learning some interesting stuff there. Meanwhile, Asta was sparring with Gaja to try to, get stronger as well. And eventually he figured out how to use the Demon Dweller sword and basically pump it full of his anti-magic and fire it off as a beam, kind of like the Lightless Slash. Kind of like Neil. Sorry, that's a Santa Claus reference. Honestly, I could reference the Santa Claus all the goddamn time. There's something about Tim Allen's lines in those movies. They're just the funniest fucking thing. Anywho, that's not the point. The point is, the boys are getting stronger. And we also saw a bit of the Spade Kingdom, as we saw some defectors, some rebels within the Spade Kingdom going off to report, basically, their findings of what was happening in the Spade Kingdom to the Clover Kingdom. And only one of them, a man named Ralph, was able to make it out. And basically, in order to escape his pursuers, he dove into a freezing river on his way towards a strong mana zone, which may or may not be the the volcano that Mereoleona is at. And as he did that, he cried out for Lord Yuno. What's that about? Boy, it's hard to raise an eyebrow when you're wearing a cap, so that doesn't look any different, does it? I'm working on something else. I mean, we could just take the cap off, I guess. I don't know. Is that too bright? I don't know. I don't know. Here. Lord Yuno. There we go. Gotta get that eyebrow raised. So, I don't know. You know, I look like a completely different person now if I take off my glasses. It's just like, oh, that looks strange, and then I put them on. There. I could leave it off. Oh, fuck, why not? Let me try it for a little bit. I should try it at least once. I don't know. Anyway, I don't have hair. Doesn't matter. If you're new here, the fuck are you doing on episode 157 if you're new here? Anyway. Yeah. With that said, why don't we just jump right into this episode of Black Clover? The reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment if you're reviewing pleasure. So, let's get going. Well, I do kind of feel like I'm shortchanging you guys, but I think we're just going to do 157 today. I did not realize that this was going to be another recap episode. I thought that 152 was the last one, so technically we should have done 158 today as well, but I don't really... we're just not going to do that. So, sorry if I'm shortchanging you a little bit, but... Oh, boy. Man, I will say, 2 recaps in 5 episodes, that's pretty dire. I can see why they needed the break. Good friggin' grief, man. So... Oh, boy. But still, it was a nice recap. Seeing everything again. I will say, I mean, just as a, from just a show perspective, I suppose, it is really interesting going back and listening to a little bit of that early Black Clover voice acting. because he really, the voice actor for Asta, he really did like come into his own eventually, you know? Like some of those early line reads, especially when he's yelling, it's just like, ooh, he hasn't perfected this yet. But that happens a lot, you know? And that happens, you know, pretty much no matter what language you're listening to. I remember early on in the 100 Girlfriends, which we watched in the English dub, I remember, like, episode 1 and 2, I was like, I'm not really sure about Karane's voice, you know, in the English dub. And I was like, maybe. Like, it's okay. It's not bad. But I was just like, I don't know. But, like, as the show goes on, she gets much more comfortable with the voice, and it puts in a much better performance. And that happens, you know? That definitely happens, no matter which, you know, language you're listening to. So... And I know that Asta's voice is kind of a big point of criticism against Black Clover, but... I remember a lot of you guys saying that that he kind of gets better around episode 30. I don't fully remember when he gets better, but honestly, I never really had a problem with Asta. But in those early days, you could definitely tell it's like, okay, he's not quite used to it. And probably now, you know, all these episodes later, at some point he probably just pitched it down a little bit, which made it less grating, basically. So yeah, even if I've never really had a problem with Asta's voice, it is nice that he, you know, got more and more comfortable with it as time went on. So yeah, and now, like I said, he's probably playing that a bit older, because Asta is a bit older. At the very least, he's a year older than he was. So yeah. So good stuff. Good stuff seeing that. Nice to see pretty much the origins, you know, again, of where he got each of his swords. Again, though, it does make me wonder, it's like, why was the Dweller sword in that dungeon? I don't think they ever explained that, you know? Because all three of these were Licht's swords, you know? So, now granted, him using the swords is also kind of weird, because he never had anti-magic. Asta gave, basically, or like once that devil took that grimoire for himself, he added the anti-magic to those swords, you know? So it makes you wonder, like, how Licht was using those swords in the first place, you know? I guess pretty much he was just using them as powerful swords, you know? And at the very least, we do see in when Licht takes back the Dweller sword, it makes sense how he used that, because he could just pool his own mana into it and use it to fire beams. So that was pretty much how he fought, especially after Asta took the Destroyer sword. But yeah, and I guess that also brings up the Destroyer sword as well, because the Destroyer sword, I mean, it's a destroyer, you know? It not only nullifies a spell, but it nullifies all the effects of a spell. So it's able to absorb, it basically absorbs and nullifies a spell in its entirety, you know? So that's how Asta was able to use it to nullify, you know, the poison spell in Hague Village. He also uses it to completely negate the reincarnation spell on the elves, you know? But if that's the case, again, it makes you wonder, what was that sword used for originally, you know? Because, again, it's like that was his sword. Now, granted, it, again, like the Dweller sword, it was not a part of his grimoire. The Slayer sword was still in his grimoire when Asta got it. Those two were outside of his grimoire after, and I guess the only thing we know is that he did use the Dweller sword back in his day, because they said that those were his swords specifically. So but then you get the, you know, the base, the Eye of the Midnight Sun layer, where he has the Demon Destroyer sword. And it's interesting too, because when he picks it up, I noticed it again when they showed that clip. When he picked it up, it still purified. So, like, it was kind of, like, rusted out, but it wasn't quite as dark as the way Asta has it, so... And then, obviously, again, he does that with the Dweller sword when he takes that from Asta, but... I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of interesting that they and I mean I guess it's just pretty easy to just be like, wow, we don't really need to explain it. You know, why was the Dweller sword in that dungeon? Doesn't matter. Why was the Destroyer sword there? Was it always there before they found that lair, or did the elves always have it? But I mean, that's the thing. Presumably Patry found that sword, and so as they were creating this new body for Licht, they, put that sword with him basically, so that when he woke up finally, he would have a sword. So I don't know. I guess we don't know if he had the Destroyer sword when he was alive, you know? We know he had the Slayer and the Dweller swords, but we don't know if he had the Destroyer sword when he was alive. So, I guess if anything, the thing that's most in question is, why was the Dweller sword in that dungeon specifically? Maybe that's where he got it originally? Like, maybe these swords sort of default back to where they were originally found, which is kind of like the Master Sword in like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Like, if like you can basically mess with it in such a way that it actually goes back to its pedestal in the Lost Woods, you know. Well, at the very least in Breath of the Wild. I guess Tears of the Kingdom, it's in a very different spot. So, still. But that's a thing that can happen. So I wonder if maybe that's just what happened here, you know? But then we see Asta. He's able to just, like Thor with Mjolnir, just bring his swords to him, which, hey, that's another thing. Can you imagine him just chucking these gigantic swords at someone? And then, because I can see him throwing his sword, as fast, as strong as he can, that person dodging, and then him just recalling it, and then hitting that person on the way back, you know? It is interesting. It is also interesting that, 157 episodes in, they're finally like, hey, we have to make Asta a little bit more interesting fight-wise, you know? Like, we have to make his combat a little bit more interesting, so they're finally figuring it out. They're finally figuring something out, but yeah, So last episode was the Dweller Sword. This episode, he figured out how he can recall them to himself, you know? So, but I like that. And I guess it kind of makes sense that just no one has been able to, like, bring out his raw potential, mainly because he is training for days on end with Gaja. So, I don't know. What else can he do? What else can they do? But everyone's getting stronger. And we will have to see how strong they get, because we're about to get to this Spade Kingdom invasion. So yeah, good stuff. I know it was another recap episode, and I am kind of shortchanging you guys a little bit, but I think we got a decent enough discussion out of it. So, with all of that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of my Black Clover reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.